We had Caitlin Clark here
Caitlin
today.
Clark this morning.
I think
yeah.
you saw that. So she was in yesterday working on her signature shoe that we'll launch, and we're working on her logo and her design of her logo.
She signed an 8-year, $28 million endorsement deal with Nike in April of last year, making it the largest sponsorship contract for a women's basketball player.
Imagine being so good at basketball that you haven't even finished your rookie season, and Nike throws $28 million at you for 8 years. That's exactly what happened to Caitlin Clark, and the WNBA absolutely lost its collective mind. We're talking about a league that's been begging for mainstream attention for decades, and now they're furious that their biggest star is actually getting it.
Bring you live on WNIK, and as usual, we're talking about Caitlin Clark.
But here's where it gets spicy. The controversy isn't just about the money. It's about race, jealousy, and a league eating itself alive while Clark laughs all the way to the bank. When news broke that Clark was getting her own signature shoe and logo with Nike, you could practically hear the jealousy echoing through WNBA locker rooms across the country. Veterans who've been grinding for years, championship winners who've dominated the league, and MVP caliber players suddenly realized they'd been playing second fiddle to a rookie who was making more money from endorsements than most of them would see in their entire careers.
Caitlin Clark has exposed the stupidity of racists at ESPN. Let's start with Robert Griffin III saying we've got a race war. That's right, it's a race war between Angel Reese, the African-American player, and Caitlin Clark, the white player. You think it's that deep, do you? It's a conversation about race that you ESPNers can't shut up about.
The backlash was immediate and brutal. Social media exploded with accusations of unfair treatment, with critics pointing out that only white WNBA players have signature shoes. The elephant in the room, A'ja Wilson, the reigning MVP and arguably the best player in the league, still doesn't have her own signature sneaker, despite years of dominance. Think about that for a second. A'ja Wilson has won 2 WNBA championships, 2 MVP awards, and has been the face of excellence in women's basketball for years.
The reason that this continues to go on and on and on is because there is a racial divide and racial undertones in almost everything involving Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark as a unit together.
But Nike gave a rookie who hadn't even played a professional game yet a $28 million deal and her own logo. The optics were absolutely devastating for the league. Wilson initially tried to play it cool, posting cryptic messages on social media that many interpreted as subtle jabs at Clark. When fans called her out for jealousy, she fired back with, "LOL, no one is jealous, bookie. I have no reason to be. LOL, I truly wish all 143 the best for."
It's noise that I don't really listen to, honestly, because I'm in season. I have other things that we need to worry about than what other people have to say. I have a scout, I have 11 other minds on my team and in my locker room that we got to make sure that we're on the same mindset. So I really can't give you the best answer on that because I really don't pay any attention to it. My goal is just to go out there and be the best that I can be for my teammates, both on and off the court, and we're going to go out there and be us.
But the damage was already done. The WNBA family was fracturing, and Clark was at the center of it all. The controversy deepened when fans and analysts started dissecting the racial implications. Critics argued that Nike was perpetuating a pattern of elevating white athletes over black athletes, despite Wilson's superior resume and accomplishments. The conversation became toxic fast, with Clark catching heat for something she had no control over, being marketable. And then came the logo reveal, which somehow made everything worse. When Nike finally unveiled Clark's signature logo, WNBA fans absolutely destroyed it on social media. Comments ranged from uninspiring to looks like something a high schooler designed in Microsoft Paint.
Number 1 is Sabrina's in WNBA logos. Number 2, I'm giving Angel Reese the logo, the number 2 logo. But there is a but. This is 100 times better than the A'ja Wilson logo.
The backlash was so severe that it became its own news cycle, with sports outlets covering the fan reaction more than the actual logo itself. But here's what makes this whole situation absolutely insane. While everyone was arguing about fairness and representation, Clark was proving exactly why Nike made the right business decision. Her games were selling out arenas. Her jersey was the best-selling WNBA merchandise in history. She was bringing millions of new eyeballs to women's basketball, generating revenue that the league had never seen before. The numbers don't lie. Clark's rookie season saw unprecedented viewership spikes, with some games drawing over 2 million viewers, numbers that would have been unthinkable just a year earlier. Nike wasn't making a charity case, they were making a calculated investment in the most marketable player women's basketball had ever produced. Meanwhile, other WNBA players were stuck in an impossible position: support Clark and risk being labeled as sellouts by their own community, criticize her and look petty while she continued breaking records and filling stadiums. The league that should have been celebrating its biggest star was instead tearing itself apart with internal drama. The Sophie Cunningham angle made it even more explosive. When Clark's logo was revealed, Cunningham hilariously tweeted what many fans were thinking, that the design looked amateur compared to what you'd expect from a $28 million deal. Even Clark's own supporters were roasting Nike's design team.
It's fine. It's not a bad logo by any means. We've seen 100 times better logos. We've also seen 100 times worse logos than this.
But perhaps the most telling moment came when Kelsey Plum posted an Instagram photo with a Nike logo visible in the background, and Clark cheekily responded, "Thanks for the Nike ad." It was a perfect encapsulation of how Clark had become so powerful that even unintentional promotion was valuable to her brand. The former Nike marketing director, Jordan Rogers, went public, essentially saying that Nike was fumbling the bag with Clark despite giving her the massive contract. His criticism focused on how the company wasn't properly leveraging Clark's popularity and mainstream appeal. When even Nike insiders are saying you're not doing enough for your $28 million investment, you know there are serious problems. What's absolutely mind-blowing is how this deal exposed the WNBA's fundamental contradictions. For years, the league complained about lack of investment, poor marketing, and insufficient corporate support. Then, when a major corporation finally makes a massive investment in a WNBA player, the league and its fans attack the decision because it wasn't distributed fairly.
Perhaps she could have been promoted more in the meantime, but regardless, she's so popular, all you got to do is drop a link. And all it took was for her to take to social media to make this announcement, for everybody to go into a frenzy, and for, I think, the vibes to pick up just a little bit. It's that genuine love.
Clark found herself in the crosshairs of a culture war she never started. She became the symbol of everything wrong with sports marketing, racial inequality in endorsements, and corporate decision-making. All because she was really, really good at basketball and happened to be marketable. The timing couldn't have been worse for league unity. Clark missed significant time during the 2025 season due to injuries, appearing in just 13 of the Fever's 37 games. Critics used her absence as ammunition, arguing that Nike bet on the wrong horse. But even while injured, her jersey sales and social media engagement remained sky high, proving her marketability transcended actual playing time. The most dangerous part for the WNBA? This controversy revealed deep fractures within the league that went far beyond Clark's deal.
Even though this dump of a league can't seem to get the hell out of their own way.
Players were publicly questioning the league's marketing strategies, corporate partnerships, and decision-making processes. What should have been a celebration of unprecedented investment became an indictment of systemic inequalities. Veterans started wondering if they'd wasted their careers building a league that would never properly reward their contributions. Young players questioned whether success on the court would translate to financial security. The Clark-Nike deal became a mirror reflecting everything the WNBA had failed to achieve for its other stars. And through it all, Clark just kept making money. While other players argued about fairness and representation, she was building a brand that transcended basketball. Her Nike deal became just one piece of an endorsement portfolio that dwarfed most players' actual WNBA salaries. The league found itself in the absurd position of being angry at success. They'd spent decades begging for mainstream attention and corporate investment, and when it finally arrived, they couldn't handle the fact that it came through one player instead of being distributed equally. Clark's logo deal exposed the WNBA as a league that didn't know how to handle prosperity. Instead of leveraging her success to lift all boats, they allowed jealousy and identity politics to overshadow the historic nature of her endorsement deals. Nike got exactly what they paid for, a player who generated conversations, controversy, and cash flow. A single, but the real bombshell came when veterans started speaking out publicly. Diana Taurasi, the WNBA's all-time leading scorer and a legend in her own right, made comments that fans interpreted as pure jealousy disguised as veteran wisdom. When she suggested Clark would struggle in the WNBA and called fans sensitive for defending Clark, the internet exploded with accusations that she was bitter about being overshadowed by a rookie. The Taurasi situation perfectly encapsulated everything wrong with how the league handled Clark's success. Here you have a player who should be celebrating the massive attention Clark was bringing to women's basketball, and instead she's out here throwing shade and acting like Clark hadn't earned her spot. Fans immediately saw through it, with social media erupting in posts saying these jealous players keep dissing Caitlin Clark. Even more telling was Breanna Stewart's damage control attempt. The New York Liberty Star had to publicly, quote, set the record straight about veteran players hating on Clark and Angel Reese, insisting it wasn't about jealousy, but about, quote, discussing the adjustment period. But fans weren't buying it. When you have to explain that you're not jealous, you're probably jealous. The veteran pushback revealed something ugly about WNBA culture that Nike's investment in Clark accidentally exposed. For years, these players had been operating in a system where everyone got participation trophies and equal attention, regardless of actual market value. Then Clark showed up and completely shattered that illusion by proving that individual star power could generate massive corporate investment. Gino Auriemma, Clark's former UConn rival and one of the most respected voices in women's basketball, dropped truth bombs that made everyone uncomfortable. He called out Clark's, quote, delusional fan base for thinking she could dominate the WNBA immediately, but he also exposed how threatened the league felt by her popularity. When he mentioned that Clark was third or fourth in MVP betting odds before playing a single game, he was highlighting the absurdity of the situation from both sides. The jealousy became so obvious that Christine Brennan wrote an entire unauthorized biography called On Her Game, specifically exploring the, quote, frosty reception Clark received from WNBA players. Think about that. A veteran sports journalist saw enough drama and hostility to write a whole book about how professional athletes were treating their league's biggest star. The psychological warfare got even more petty when you looked at the social media subtweets. Veterans would post inspirational quotes about earning your place and respecting those who came before you that everyone knew were aimed at Clark. Meanwhile, Clark's supporters would fire back with viewing numbers and merchandise sales that made it clear who was actually moving the needle for the league. What made the whole situation even more explosive was the racial undertone that nobody wanted to address directly. When fans pointed out that only white WNBA players had signature shoes, they weren't just making an observation. They were highlighting a pattern that made black players feel systematically overlooked by major brands. A'ja Wilson's accomplishments were undeniable, but Nike's decision to invest in Clark's potential over Wilson's proven track record felt like a slap in the face to many. The league found itself trapped in identity politics that overshadowed basketball excellence. Instead of celebrating that a WNBA player was finally getting the kind of corporate investment that male athletes take for granted, they turned it into a conversation about fairness and representation that nobody could win. President Joe Biden even weighed in on the salary disparity, tweeting about how Clark's teacher salary was inappropriate for a superstar. When the President of the United States is commenting on your rookie contract, you know the Nike deal has transcended sports and become a cultural phenomenon. But perhaps the most damaging aspect was how the controversy revealed that WNBA players didn't understand their own business. They were angry that Clark got a massive deal based on her marketability and potential, but they couldn't grasp that Nike wasn't running a charity. The company was making a calculated investment in the player most likely to generate returns. And Clark's college popularity and social media following made her the obvious choice. The veteran's inability to separate business decisions from personal feelings showed why the league had struggled for decades to achieve mainstream success. Instead of learning from Clark's marketing genius and applying those lessons to their own brands, they chose to tear down the player who was lifting the entire league's profile. The WNBA learned the hard way that star power isn't democratic, marketability isn't fair, and success isn't always distributed equally. But more importantly, they learned that jealousy and identity politics can destroy the very opportunities they claimed to want. Caitlin Clark's Nike deal didn't just break records, it broke a league that wasn't ready for its own success and exposed veterans who preferred equality of outcome over the brutal meritocracy that drives professional sports. Subscribe to see how this WNBA civil war plays out next season.